So, for my final speech, I decided to record one of the short stories I've written and posted on my WordPress blog. This one is called The Fading Star. The grainy sand scrapes the bottom of her feet as she walks slowly towards the water. The pale moonlight glimmers off the sand in front of her, and she places her hand into the sun-warmed sand, its delicate grains falling slowly through her palm. But as she feels the grains run by, a slice appears. She feels it run from the top to the bottom of her palm. She looks down, and there's a piece of bright blue sea glass sticking out of the bottom of her palm. The crimson blood drips down slowly from her broken skin, drops rolling slowly from her palm to the ground below, leaving a trail as she walked slowly towards the waves. She looks up at the stars, expecting to see thousands of shimmering lights smiling back at her. But all she saw was black, the same as every other day. The darkness that lies within her radiated out into the night as she blends into the starless night, invisible, unseen, as if no one in the world ever knew she existed. The only thing that showed were her eyes. Her eyes would be reflected from the moon, showing their once bright pale color, now faded but still there. She takes another step towards the dark water splashing in front of her, the first salty spray touching her face as the blood from her palm drips into the receding wave. Walking past her knees in the crisp, cold water, it shocks her system, and she looks back to the shore to see if anyone has followed her. Sadly, there was nothing there. The only footprints were hers, and they were disappearing slowly as the incoming tide came closer and closer to shore. She continued to walk into the water, deeper and deeper. As the tide comes crashing in above her head, she begins to taste the salt on her lips. As the next wave comes over her head, she opens her mouth and takes a deep breath in. The salty water fills her lungs, and she closes her eyes as she stays under the water. With her last moment of consciousness, she opens her eyes, and under the murky water, she sees a single star shimmering in the sky, a solitary flickering, its light dimming. As her body floats gently to the bottom of the sea, the star's light above slowly fading back into the darkness. She awoke then, in a hospital bed that she had been lying in for 3 years, the doctors hoping and praying that she would recover from the traumatic incident that occurred to her, the car accident that caused her to go into a coma that they thought she would never recover from. She didn't know who she was, where she was, or remember anything other than that night on the beach, which now may not be real. The doctors questioned her, asking, "Are you okay? What do you feel? What do you remember?" And she had no answers. She had forgotten how to speak. Or did she even ever know? She was released from the hospital, and discovering where she was, drove to the nearest beach. It was getting dark then, so she sat on the beach and looked up at the sky. There were stars here, not as bright as they should be because the city lights shone too brightly, but stars nonetheless. But as she gazed at them, they began to flicker out, as if being turned off by a light switch. She decided that whether this was real or whether this was another dream, she was going to do what she did before. So she stood up and walked towards the ocean, knowing that is where she should be a part of. She dove in, under the sea, hoping and praying that nothing would come to her again. No more harm, no more danger. She remained there, frozen, forever. So this short story was originally much shorter and was written kind of a cathartic release to one of the mental illnesses I deal with. And so I use a lot of my writing to deal with that stuff, so I decided to share one of my short stories that kind of deals with it with you. There is a longer novel coming out that goes more in depth about all these things, but for now I just wanted to give you guys a little taste.